to Study Isaiah, the podcast in which we examine the language, context, and meaning of the book of Isaiah with Paul Wegner. I'm Tyler Sanders, and across from me is Dr. Wegner. He's going to tell us the Hebrew word of the day.
Yes, now I have a really good one for you, because you won't know it until we get to like the last servant song, but this is probably the biggest issue in the book. It's nazah, to sprinkle.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, to sprinkle or splatter. 24 times, all but 3 are in the Pentateuch, and 13 are in Leviticus for cleansing and stuff like that. So, where's
But
your
not
joy?
baptism.
No, not baptism.
Gateway Seminary does not endorse sprinkling. It's a
There
form
we
of
go.
Baptism.
All right.
But it's used for like a ritual kind of
Yes, to
cleansing or
cleanse
something?
stuff. Yep. And that'll make perfect sense when we get here's the passage that has it, 52:15. Thus he will sprinkle many nations, kings will shut their mouths on account of him, for what they had not been told they will see, and what they had not heard they will understand. So the Septuagint says, thus he will startle or something like amaze, because then it says kings will shut their mouths, so it sounds like they're startled.
Yeah.
But there's no place they have to go to an Arabic word to even suggest that. And most modern scholars know that's not a good place to go for a word like this. And it seems like to me, you just take it as its normal understanding, and it's saying that he's going to cleanse many nations. That will surprise these kings, because they had no idea that there was going to be someone come to cleanse them.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when we get to it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But this is an amazing word, and it seems like to me it's so clear that it has to be to sprinkle or splatter, and it means in the sense of cleansing it.
Yeah. Will you tell us in Hebrew one more time? Is it
Nazah.
Nazah.
Mm-hmm.
Nazah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. Well, let's get into the text.
All right.
We'll get to that word pretty soon, I think.
Okay. Now, do you here's my second section. Okay, and we're in this very first part, and it's going to start with the second servant song.
Okay.
So who was the first servant in the first servant song?
You said it was Cyrus last week.
Okay. And
Yeah.
remember in 42, that one's there. And the reason I argued that is because the whole context seems to suggest that God's going to use this servant to bring his people back home. Well, the servant he used was Cyrus. And so it seems like to me to be real clear. I think one of the most common views now is it's either Messiah, because you look in the New Testament and it seems to suggest him doing the same kind of thing. But remember, I've talked about that as filling it up with more meaning.
Yes.
Otherwise, they argue that it's Israel, because all the way through Israel, other places, it talks about Israel being the servant. And I don't have a problem with Israel was a servant, but I don't think it's the servant talked about in the first servant song.
The first servant song.
What I am going to tell you, though, I do think it starts off as a servant in the second servant song.
Okay.
So when we look at it, I think it'll make sense that Israel could be God's servant, but then at a certain point, well, before we get into it, let's read it.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're in chapter 49. I want to start with verse 1. Listen to me, O highlands, and pay attention, you peoples from afar. The Lord called me from the womb, from the body of my mother, he named me. So here's the me is obviously going to be the servant that God's using, okay? He has made my mouth like a sharp arrow. In the shadow of his hand, he has concealed me. He has also made me a select arrow and hidden me in his quiver. He said to me, you are my servant Israel, in whom I will show my glory. I have tried every way possible to get that you are my servant Israel out of there. To translate it in a way that would make it not be Israel.
Yeah.
Right? Because so here's what I used to think. Here's God. He's got this quiver. He's got this arrow that he takes out and uses to deliver the nation, right?
Yeah.
So I always thought, okay, that quiver is Israel. He takes the Messiah out, right? And he's going to use that to deliver his nation. The problem with that, is the next verse.
Yeah.
Okay? So at this point, well, look what it says in verse 4. But I said, I have toiled in vain. I have spent my strength for nothing in vanity. I can't imagine Jesus ever thinking that way. Even in the Garden of Eden, or Garden of Eden.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Gethsemane.
Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's okay. You're an Old Testament.
Yeah, that's right. Even in the Garden of Gethsemane, he's praying to God to take this, if it's possible, to take this
Yeah.
away from me. But he never said, I don't think he ever thought that he was toiling in vain.
It was in vain. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, but I can believe that Israel felt that the job they were given to do. Remember, in the Old Testament, God, several places, he talks about them being a light to the nation. Or in the one that I think is real clear in Exodus 19:6, he actually says he's going to make them a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Well, a priest is the one that's like a go-between between him and God, them and God, right?
Yeah, so they
he's
would be
the in-between person. Yeah. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So I'm actually thinking that this is starting off being Israel. So no, he's concealed me in his womb, or he's covered me the shadow of his hand. He's made my mouth like a sharp sword. He's made him a select arrow. All that fits for saying that I'm going to use and hidden him in my quiver.
Yeah.
If he's hidden him in his quiver, now that quiver has to be the world, and Israel is a servant taken out.
Yeah.
But that would fit everything up to this point that they would have known about Israel. It was Israel's job to bring the message of this holy God to the rest of the nations. I think Israel, and that's why verse 3 makes it real clear, you are my servant Israel.
Yeah.
And I tried every way to get that to not say that, but I don't.
pretty much what it says.
I think it says that.
Yeah.
And in whom I will show my glory. So he's going to use Israel to show his glory to the rest of the world. Obviously he brings them out of the Exodus. They see this great God and all that. He takes them into the promised land. He's a witness to all the Canaanites and everything. So I think at times it worked, okay? But there's also a time when they realized they were so wicked they were being punished all the time.
Yeah.
So when nations looked at them, I can't imagine. I think most nations would say, man, I just certainly don't want that God Yahweh as my God. Look, he's always punishing them.
That's kind of what we've seen.
Yeah. In the first
Through
part of
Isaiah,
yeah. Okay. So they're feeling like they can't do the job. So when it says, but I have toiled in vain, I've spent my strength for nothing in vanity. I think Israel would be feeling that, especially if this was written post-exilic time or in the exile.
Yeah.
They're sitting in exile thinking,
Right.
what am I going to do from here? In fact, does God even love me?
Yeah.
So I am actually thinking that, yes, that fits Israel very well. But then you look at the next verse. And now says the Lord, who formed me from the womb to be his servant. This sounds like it's a different servant than the one was before. Because, he says about the same kind of things.
Yeah.
The Lord called me from the womb, from the body of my mother, he named me. So it says about the same things. But look what it says. To bring Jacob back to him so that Israel might be gathered to him.
Yeah, so if Israel is the first servant in this passage, it's like
Yeah.
the second one is to do, kind of fix this problem that the first one had.
So when it gets to that point, I think the servant song now changes course and lets them know, Israel, you really can't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring somebody who can.
Yeah.
So I actually believe now we're going to talk about the Messiah, the one that Jesus, that Jesus fulfills.
And this first two words in verse 5, and now, would that be different than what we normally see in Hebrew of just like, and then this happened?
Oh yeah,
and then
it's
this
not
happened?
just the while consecutive.
Yeah.
This is now. He's got the actual word now in there. So it almost is like now is a new time
the
period.
next thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So right in the heart of it, you've got to shift. I think that's why this has been so complicated because most people don't understand. I mean, it could be Israel, it could be Isaiah, it could be Cyrus, it could be Messiah. So it seems like to me there's been so many people suggesting different things, but it seems like to me that's because in the middle of it switches.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it makes a lot of sense if you're going to have from that point on him say, but now I'm going to do it. Here's Israel who's toiled in vain, isn't able to do it. I'm going to have to bring a real servant now, or my servant to do the job.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
does it make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
So from the text itself, I think we've got a transition here. So now remember, I thought the first one was Cyrus, and I did it from context. The context fits that really well because he seems like he's almost bragging that he brought Cyrus. Here, you've several times you had Israel being the servant through there. Even in those first 8 chapters were telling us that.
Yeah.
From like 40 to 48. Several times it talked about Israel being his witnesses and even his servants.
Yeah.
Now it says, but Israel hasn't been able to do it. But I can bring somebody who will.
Yeah.
And so it seems like it really makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few people that hold that, so I'm warning you already.
Yeah.
But from the text, it seems like that makes a lot of sense.
And you'd say the second servant, not the second servant song. In the second servant song, we're starting out talking. It's Israel is the first servant mission, and then the second would be Messiah. Is that what you would say?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's how I see it. So I do think it gets to him. And let's see what it says about him. So it's first to bring Jacob back to him so that Israel might be gathered to him. So you had that phrase, for I'm honored in the sight of the Lord. My God is my strength. Is it too small thing for you that you should be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob, to restore the preserved ones of Israel? So he's actually saying, it sounds like to me, not only can he do it for Israel, look at then, I will also make you a light to the nations so that my salvation may reach to the ends of the earth or end of the earth. So now he's saying, Israel couldn't even do it so that the nations could do it. So he says, okay, so I'm going to have you bring Israel, but that's too small thing. I'm going to have you bring all the nations to me through this.
Yes, yeah.
So once again, it seems to fit Messiah perfectly.
Yeah.
All right. Thus says the Lord, the Redeemer of Israel and his Holy One, to the despised one, to the one abhorred by the nation, to the servant of rulers. Kings will see and arise, princesses will bow down. So at some point, there's somebody who's going to be abhorred by the nation, which you're going to see that in chapter 52 and 53 later in that last servant song. But also, so you've got the nation abhorring him, okay, and that nation is singular. So I'm assuming it's Israel. And then he says, but to the servants of rulers, kings will see and arise, princes will bow down. So somebody's going to get that this Messiah is amazing. Even if Israel rejects him, other nations are going to see that.
Yeah.
Okay? Because of the Lord who is faithful, the Holy One of Israel, who has chosen you. So that I think that's primarily where it stops, but some people have actually argued it goes on. Thus says the Lord, in a favorable time I have answered you. In a day of salvation I will help you. I will keep you and give you as a covenant for the people. So actually, I actually think it goes on from here. Some people have said it stops. I think
that the song stops there?
Yeah. I think it still is going on because he's still talking about the you, whoever that was, and it sounds like it's a servant.
Yeah.
Okay? In a day of salvation, I have helped you. I will keep you and give you for a covenant to the peoples. That's one of the hardest. We actually had that phrase in 42. Do you remember? And I said, a covenant is like an agreement with the people. So there, I think once God gave the promise, it was an agreement that he was going to use Cyrus to deliver him. I think at the same point now, he's made a covenant, meaning he's made an agreement with the nation that God is going to use Messiah to deliver them. And so now that's what's going on. So I think when he says, I will give you as a covenant to the people, I think that means there's an agreement I told you was going to happen, and now I'm going to bring it about.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
To restore the land, to make them inherit the desolate heritages. Saying to those who are bound, go forth. To those who are in darkness, show yourself. Now, do you remember Cyrus? That I understood those back in chapter 40 to 48 as very literal, understanding as being from taking them out of prison, out of exile.
Yeah.
And even if it's figurative, it still means from the exile to the promised land.
Yeah.
But here, now, if this is true, the Messiah is going to do it almost not in a figurative way. It's still going to be quite literal. They're still going to be delivered, but it's not necessarily from prison. When he says go forth, and show yourself, for those who are in darkness, show yourselves. I think it's more of a spiritual blindness that he's going to deliver them from. So remember that prophetic perspective? I was supposed to get you one of those slides, didn't I? Sorry, I still haven't done it. So here's the prophet looking into the future.
Yeah.
And he probably sees that deliverance from the Babylon,
Yeah.
but he also sees a bigger picture.
Spiritual deliverance.
Yeah, this darkness that he's taking them out of and stuff like that. So I see him as the prophet looking in the future and probably seeing both of these deliverances in his mind.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Once again, he doesn't see how much time is between them, but they both make sense to him.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so in this, so starting about with 9 following, it's going to sound very similar to that terminology, bringing them out of the exile, because I think he's using them as an illustration of this nether exile that he's going to bring them out of and deliver them. Saying to those who are bound, go forth. To those who in darkness, show yourself. Along the roads they will feed. Their pastures will be on the bare heights. They will not hunger or thirst, nor will the scorching heat or sunstroke strike them down. For he who has compassion on them will lead them and guide them to springs of water. I will make my mountain a road, and my highways will be raised up. Behold, these will come from afar, and lo, these will also come from the north and from the east, and those from the land of Sinim. We don't know exactly where that is. It could be Egypt. It could be below Egypt. There's some scholars that argue that. But you've already got from the north and the
west.
east. Or west, okay, yeah. So north and west. Now, if Siddim is more in the south, you've got at least
Kind of
3 of
covering
the
directions.
directions. Yeah.
Yeah.
So remember, and certainly west wouldn't have been where the Babylonians would have, the Israelites would have come from Babylon.
Yeah.
That would have been from the east. So,
Yeah.
so that wouldn't fit. Shout for joy, O heavens, and rejoice, O earth. Break forth into joyful shouting, O mountains. For the Lord has comforted his people and will have compassion on his afflicted. So I think what's happened here, it starts off talking about Israel, God was going to use Israel to deliver the world. They realize they can't do it. Okay, at that point, they say, I've toiled in vain and all of that. And I can't believe that that's referring to Jesus, okay, which it's real common to argue Messiah is the song, right?
Yeah.
But at verse 5, I do think it changes to Messiah because now, and using almost the same terms as you had at the beginning of what God did with Israel to bring them forth, he's going to use those same kind of terms to bring this next servant out. And then the new job is to not only bring Israel and Judah back to him, but he's also going to bring the
light
world
to the nations,
back.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
That does, yeah.
So it seems like to me we've now got a new. I think it's in my mind it's like the clearest interpretation of that passage could be, and even I was just like everybody else trying to make it into Israel or making it into Messiah. I tried doing that, but I just couldn't get all the passage to work out to just refer to one of those.
Yeah.
So I've now made a combination, which I think the first one is talking to Israel. He can't do it, so God's going to bring a Messiah.
Can I ask you a side question real quick?
Sure. Yeah.
When you're working through a process like that, how do you approach that? Is that because that's a pretty complicated
Yeah.
problem, and it's kind of heavy in that it's interpreting God's word. It's not like I was like an English major in college, and I went to like a secular school, but like part of the interpretive process when I was a college student was like to come up with new meanings for the text. We would do like close readings. We'd do things where it's like, we had a class where we were studying Moby Dick, and it was like, it was like you were encouraged to. I remember one of the articles we read was like an ecological. Yeah. What is Moby Dick telling us from an ecological perspective? And it's probably not. Melville probably wasn't thinking that, but like, there's things you could probably pull out of it, and there's like these interpretive tools they would use. It's part of the academic process, but like that's that'd be very foreign in our field. Certainly with like we believe that it has meaning. The Bible has meaning, and we can't just.
And our job is to figure out what it is.
Yeah, right.
And on a passage like this that's so complicated, which I am agreeing that it is complicated, I think what we do is we start, I think we look at the commentaries. We've seen what, I've looked at them all. They all have different people here.
Yeah.
Then you go to the text again. There's something called the hermeneutical circle, or the spiral, really. Dr. Osborne wrote a book called the hermeneutical spiral, and I think he's right. So you start off with the text, you try to figure it out, you read the commentaries, you then go back to the text. Which one makes the most sense in this context? You then go back to other places, grammar, everything you can figure out. You go back to the text. So that spiral is taking you back each time to the text to see if you can figure out more clearly what the passage is saying.
Yeah.
So I actually believe that's kind of the way you do it. You look at what others say, but then you don't stop there. You keep trying to figure out, are they accurate? Have they got the meaning here? And I just kept coming back frustrated, saying, this does not make sense. It seems so clearly that at verse 4, if this is Messiah and he's saying that I have struggled in vain and for vanity, that just blew me away. That just can't fit. And that was my interpretation before. So I tried to get, in verse 3, I tried everything to get it to refer to Messiah and not Israel.
Yeah.
But it clearly does sound like Israel.
Yeah.
And so I had to start there and then figure out, okay, that seems to be what the grammar is saying. How do I then look at the commentary and say, those don't seem to fit? So go back to the text, see what it's saying again, and then try to figure out. And I think at some point, I know it's going to sound really bad, but I think God helped me. I think the Holy Spirit at some point does help. But that's going to sound really bad, because then that means that all those others that got it wrong, weren't using the Holy Spirit. Yeah. And I don't think that's true either. Yeah. So I think you go to the text, you try to figure it out, you go to the commentaries, see if they've got good answers as to why they think it's what it is. Then you go back to the text, is that what it says? And it seems like to me they were all falling short on how to explain it. And then at one point it hit me, and I think that's probably the Holy Spirit helping us to. So I still see there's an element of the Holy Spirit's help in understanding these, but I don't think you can go on just that to figure it out. Here's people that don't know Hebrew and stuff like that, and the Holy Spirit told me it means this. Well, why? So I think you need to put all that into it and then see if there's an answer for it. And I think I came up with one.
Yeah.
So at least at this point, I'm very satisfied with this. It seems like it fits all the possibilities of what the text is saying, as well as it seems like to me it combines what the best scholarship was saying. So that's why I think it actually does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I was trying, and when it got to verse 5 and it said to bring Jacob back to him. So it seemed like to me, okay, it can't be Israel anymore, because how does Israel bring Israel back to him?
Yeah.
So it has to be somebody doing this. And I thought the Messiah makes the most sense.
Yeah.
So
that's
how
good.
I did it.
Well, no, I think that's helpful. It's helpful because, I think the more time you spend in the text, you come across problem text isn't the right word.
Yeah.
But you come
Difficult
around
ones.
things that are difficult or confounding in some kind of way. That's actually our chapel series right now.
Yeah, that's right.
It probably won't be whenever people listen to this, but but that's I think like we recognize there are things that are really complicated, or like your first time reading it, you're like that doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. But there's a process to go through to work through the text. We do have even if you don't agree with a lot of it, there's a wealth of literature out there of people who you're not the first person to come across this problem.
Yeah.
People have thought about it before for years and years and years, and there's a lot you can learn from that. But but I like what you said is you always come back to the text.
Often I would tell my students in the Old Testament, it's probably better to start with a commentary. A lot of other like in the New Testament, it might not be so good to start there. But in the Old Testament, a lot of people don't even have the background to figure out what the issues are. Yeah. So you can start with a commentary, make it we call it a lay commentary, one that's for people in the congregation, give you the background and stuff like that, then go to more detailed commentaries and stuff like that. So you build your interpretation based upon what these scholars are saying, but also what you think the text is saying.
Yeah.
So let me keep going and
Yeah,
show
sure.
you. Here's kind of a summary of it. So Israel is the arrow to be a light to the nations, 1-4. Okay, but they couldn't do it. We got to that. I labored in vain. So God brings another one, meaning the Messiah, that takes you to the rest of the verse.
Yeah.
So that one, in my mind, makes a lot of sense now. And in the rest of this, the rest of these verses, it's God talking to Zion about him delivering them. Let's just read a couple verses. I'll start at verse 14. But Zion said, the Lord has forsaken me, and the Lord has forgotten me. Can a woman forget a nursing child? Do you remember in chapter 40, that section had like 2 questions in it? Is God willing to deliver us, and is God able?
Yeah.
It seems like to me it's answering those
Same
same
question.
questions. Yeah. But Zion says the Lord has forsaken me. So is God willing to deliver me? Has the Lord forgotten me? And then he says, can a woman forget her nursing child and have no compassion on the son of her womb? Even these may forget, but I will not forget you. So he's even admitting that humans might forget a child that they're nursing. It'd be really unlikely.
Yeah.
But he says it might be possible.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty convincing.
Yeah.
Behold, I have inscribed you on the palms of my hands. Your walls are continually before me. So that actually sounds like, to me, he's saying, you're so dear to me that I've written your name. Well, he says, I've even ascribed you on the palms of my hands. So your names are there in front of him all the time.
Yeah.
I actually like that.
That is good.
Yeah. Then verse 24. So that's the first one, him talking about. Okay, so he's promised that he's not going to forget them, and instead, look at verse 20 says, the children of whom you were bereaved will yet say in your ears, the place is too cramped for me. Make room for me that I may live here. Then you will say in your hearts, who has begotten all these for me, since I have been bereaved of my children, and I am barren in exile and wanderer. So he's actually, here's a picture of what he's explaining what God's going to do for them. He's saying that, you've been in exile, so how did you get all these children? He's actually saying God's going to bring these to you. I think he's talking about, I think when he's saying these children that I have, initially he's referring to those in the exile, right? Because he's talking about them. How did I get all these new children? So that must be the believing remnant that's after the exile. So I think what he's doing is he's picturing first her in exile and saying, well, I don't have many children all like this. But then now she's got all kinds of people, children. So she's even going to have to widen her tents.
Right.
Well, why? And it's because God's bringing the remnant, and they're coming more than just from Israel. See, that's why there's so many of them.
Yeah. Interesting.
So if you ask the question, is God willing? He's saying, well, of course I'm willing. Not only am I willing to deliver you, I'm going to bring all kinds of other people also to you.
Yeah.
And so much so that you're
gonna
going to wonder where they all came from.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that fits. Then you've got, is God able? And that starts at verse 24. I'll start at 23. Kings will be your guardians, and their princesses your nurses. They will bow down to you with their faces to the earth and lick the dust of your feet. And you will know that I am the Lord those who hopefully wait for me will not be put to shame. So there's kind of building this idea of, okay, is he able to do it? He's saying he can. Then he says, can the prey be taken from a mighty man, or captives from a tyrant be rescued? Surely, says the Lord, even the captives of the mighty man will be taken away, and the prey of the tyrant will be rescued. For I will contend with those who contend with you, and I will save your sons. I will feed your oppressors with their own flesh. They will become drunk with their own blood and with sweet wine. All flesh will know that I, the Lord, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. So is the answer, can he deliver them? Well, look, can prey be taken from a lion?
Right.
Maybe not likely.
Yeah.
But it can.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So I think what he's highlighting is that, don't worry, I'm going after those who contended with you. And not only that, I'm going to have them eating their own flesh. That sounds kind of gory.
Horrible,
but I think what he's saying is they're going to be torn up inside. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to bring you out. Yeah. So the question is, can he do it? And the answer's got to be yes.
Yeah.
So, and then he finalizes it with, all flesh will know that I, the Lord, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. So the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And now everybody will know that.
Yeah. Right.
So
Right.
So that's kind of how that chapter ends. And
Yeah.
I think it's kind of amazing.
It is, yeah.
It starts with that second servant song, though, and I think that's kind of key to the whole thing. Here's this God that's going to deliver you, but he's going to use a Messiah to do it.
Yeah.
And then
That's really good.
the rest of it.
Yeah.
So that's that chapter.
Okay.
We're going to head to the next one. Is
Chapter 50.
Is God willing? And so you've got that, and then who could forget Israel? He's written them on his hands.
Yeah.
Okay. And who is he able? He'll destroy all your enemies. So that's kind of the answers that he's giving.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're at the second one. Oh, and I don't know of many people that have seen this too, but almost every time right before you have a servant song. So we're going to have another one in chapter 50, verse 4. But right before it, look at 50, verse 2. Why was there no man when I came? Why was there not one to answer? I don't know if you remember, but if you looked at chapter 42, there was, I think it's 41:18, there's a passage that says something like, I looked around and I could find no one who could deliver. And then he has this servant song. So it seems like to me his answer is, I looked in Israel, couldn't find somebody who could do it, so I brought this one.
Yeah.
And then that same kind of thing is happening here.
Yeah.
He looked around, and no one in the nation could do it, so he's going to have to bring his Messiah to do it.
Yeah.
And then in chapter 51, verse 18, you've got another one. And it sounds like here's God looking around, can't do it, so he's going to bring his Messiah. So it seems like these are introductions to the servant song coming later.
It's interesting because that's kind of Isaiah's story a little bit.
Yeah.
Too, right?
Yeah.
When he's called, it's like,
there's nobody else that would
who am
do
I
it.
going to send? And
Yeah.
it's like,
That's
I'm
good.
here.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, well, let's look at 50, because 50 is kind of an interesting chapter also.
Yeah.
Thus says the Lord, where's the certificate of divorce by which I've sent your mother away? I don't know if you remember in the New Testament, it actually asks, can people get divorces for any reason? And Jesus says, well, from the beginning it was so. Or he first says, he's referring back to Deuteronomy, and they say, Moses said to give him a certificate of divorce. And Jesus says, yes, but from the beginning it wasn't so. So, and he says the only reason Moses did that was because of your hardness of hearts. Yeah. So if we go back to Deuteronomy 24, it talks about a husband finding some indecency, whatever that means, some indecency in his wife. If he sends her away, he's got to give her a certificate of divorce. He's saying here is that there is God never gave Israel a certificate of divorce. So it wasn't his issue. It wasn't on God's side that he sent her away. But look what it says. By which I have sent you away, your mother away, or to whom creditors did I sell you? That would be the other reason. There might be two reasons why a woman would get divorced. One is that they could get a divorce, and then they get this certificate, and they could go away and get married to somebody else, it seems like. Yeah. The other one is that he might have to sell them to his creditors. So the husband gets in debt, so he has to sell them to his creditors. And he's saying, instead, behold, you were sold for your iniquities, and for your transgressions your mother was sent away. So he's saying it wasn't the problem with God. Yeah. It was a problem with you. Yeah. You guys got sent away because of your sins, and it wasn't because I sent you away with a certificate of divorce, or I didn't get in trouble, and so I was in debt to somebody. I had to sell you and give you away. Yeah. In actual fact, he's saying neither of those were the case. Yeah. You did it on your own. Yeah. So he's making it really clear that it's not God's fault that they were sent away. It was their own. Yeah. So that actually is really helpful, because now that you hear that, the next part, and then he says, I looked around, there was no man that could help you and then he says, is my hand so short? So I'm in verse 2. Is my hand so short that I cannot ransom? Or have I no power to deliver? Behold, I dried up the sea with my rebuke. I made the rivers a wilderness. Their fish stunk for lack of water and died for thirst. And I clothed the heavens with darkness and made sackcloth their covering. So he's saying, the problem wasn't with me. I looked around and couldn't find someone to do it. Here I am, the creator God that can change things. And now verse 4 is, I think, the third servant song. So this is his answer. I'm a great God, and here's going to be how I deliver you.
Yeah.
So I think that's how the third servant song fits into its context.
Yeah.
Does that make some sense?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
So here's our third servant song. It's going to go through. I believe it's referring to the Messiah. So remember, the first one was Cyrus.
Yep.
Second one starts off as Israel,
And then
then
shifts.
changes to Messiah. So for the rest of them, it's going to be Messiah. Because
Okay.
you asked me earlier, who do I just keep changing who the servant song
Right.
refers to? And I think once it gets to Messiah in the second one,
Yeah,
it stays
stays.
the rest of the time.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you really only have Cyrus at first, then Israel starting off but can't do it, and so God brings Messiah, and the rest of them
Yeah.
fit Messiah.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not like every one is different. I think they all kind of fit together.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at this servant song. The Lord God has given me the tongue of disciples. I assume that means he's obedient if he's got a tongue of disciples, okay? That I may know how to sustain a weary one with a word. So that must mean he can encourage people with a mere word from him.
Yeah.
Now, I could see at this point that could be Isaiah. You know, Isaiah's got this message. His message is very encouraging. So I think in this servant song, you have to go between. Okay, so it's probably no longer Israel, but it's probably could be Isaiah, who's a servant that actually God's going to use, or the Messiah.
Yeah.
I actually think it fits Messiah better.
Better, yeah.
Okay, we'll see why in a minute. He wakens me morning by morning. He awakens my ear to listen as a disciple. So that just seems like he's talking about him being obedient and he's going to follow God. Okay, the Lord God has opened my ears and I was not disobedient. Now that opened my ears could mean he created a body for, that was, if you go to Psalms, there's one passage in there, I think it's chapter 40, that talks about God forming the ears. And so I think that could be what this is getting at. God opened his ears, meaning it could mean he gave him a body, or it could just mean he opened his ears so he would hear him. Okay, so he'd be obedient. And I was not disobedient. Okay, that fits the being obedient part. Nor did I turn back. I gave my back to those who strike me, and my cheek to those who plucked out my beard. Why I don't think this fits Isaiah very well is that we've got nothing in the history to suggest that he was beaten or anything like that. Now, we do have a story that talks about the martyrdom of Isaiah. Manasseh, it claims. Now remember, this is a pseudepigrapha, so it's not biblical text. So it's probably a tradition, and I doubt that some of it may be true or built off the truth, but it goes way beyond anything else. Isaiah was hiding from Manasseh, who, Manasseh is one of the wickedest kings, following his father Hezekiah, who was a very good king.
Yeah.
And it says he's running along, and Manasseh is about ready to get him, and a tree swallows him up to hide him. But then Manasseh somehow finds out he's there. So it says he cuts down the tree, and it cuts through Isaiah's mouth. Because remember, Isaiah says in chapter 6 is that how his mouth is corrupt, and so that God takes the coal and touches it. So then he can be used by God. So they've taken that idea and said that that's the only place he could have been harmed. So the cutting him down at the tree. Now, once again, I don't think this is true, but I can see where it comes from, logic in the text. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my cheeks from those who pluck out my beard. I will not cover my face from humiliation and spitting, for the Lord God helps me, therefore I am not disgraced. So all of this fits Jesus really well. He was mocked, and he had his beard plucked out and all that. So it fits him really well. Though at the time that this was given, they wouldn't have known that. So I think it would have been really hard for them to figure out, okay, who's this suffering servant that God's bringing?
Yeah.
When they see it in Jesus' life, I would hope they would have said, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Therefore, I'm not disgraced, because God helps him, okay? Therefore, I've set my face like flint, and I know that I will not be ashamed. For he who vindicates me is near, he who will contend with me. So the me in all these passages, or the my, I think is the Messiah. And so that God's being protected and drawing him to do all these things. And so I think that's what's happening here. Let us stand up to each other. Who has a case against me? Let him draw near to me. Behold, the Lord God helps me. Who is he who contends with me? Behold, they will all wear out like a garment. The moth will eat them. Who among you fears the Lord and obeys the voice of his servants and walks in darkness and has no light? Let him trust in the name of the Lord and rely on his God. So I think what that means is, okay, here's this servant. God's going to bring him, and anyone who has faith in this servant will actually be figure out that he's going to be protected. Okay, let him trust in the name of the Lord and rely on his God. Behold, all you who kindle a fire, who circle yourselves with firebrands, walk in the light of your fire. So I think what he's saying, the first one, verse 10, I think it's talking about the righteous people trusting in God. I think starting at verse 11, we're talking about the wicked people who are kindling their own fire. Did you notice it says they're walking in the light of your own fire?
Yeah.
I assume that means and not God's.
Yeah, right.
So I think what they're saying is here, so if you're going to rely on yourself, you guys are in trouble.
Yeah.
For you have this you have from my hand, you will lie down in torment. So if you don't rely on the servant who God's bringing, then you're going to rely on your own light and your own fire, and you're going to be put to shame.
Yeah.
Okay? So that seems to be what chapter 50 is all about. So it starts off with talking about, well, first of it says, it starts off saying, it wasn't God's problem. He did not send a certificate of a divorce to get rid of you. He didn't fall into debt.
Yeah.
So, but you guys wandered away on your own.
Yeah.
So then verse 2 says, so I looked around, couldn't find anybody. By verse 4, now you've got God bringing this obedient servant who will suffer humiliation, will be beaten, but then the Lord's going to help him.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I see that. And then those who put their trust in this servant are going to be delivered, and those that don't are going to be punished.
Yeah.
So it says, you will lie down in torment.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty bad.
It does. But it is fascinating. This really does fit Jesus very well,
Yeah, no.
like the method of salvation in a way.
Yes.
Which is so counterintuitive, I think, to
good.
Us and our
So I think that's why this one it doesn't give us a lot of hints as to who it is.
Yeah.
But it certainly fits Messiah better than anyone else because I don't see really good evidence that Isaiah was treated like this.
Yeah.
We do see good evidence that Jesus was treated like this.
Yeah.
So that's how I hold that.
That's good.
Hold on that one.
That's really good.
Okay. Now we've got a working up towards what's called the fourth servant song. So we're starting in chapter 51. It's interesting because you've got phrases at the very beginning that starts each unit. So you've got listen, attend to, awake, and then the kind of the key is in verse 12. Okay, well, let me first show you what verse 1 says. Listen to me, and you who pursue righteousness. Seek the Lord. Look to the rock from which you were hewn, and the quarry from where you were dug. Look to Abraham your father and Sarah who gave you birth in pain. When he was but one, I called him, and I blessed him and multiplied him. So I think what it's exhorting Israel to say, okay, look to the past. Where'd you come from? Yeah. And he's saying you came from Abraham and from Sarah. At that point, you were just one people. Abraham and Sarah, two people, and he made the whole nation out of them.
Yeah.
So I think that's what he's getting at. Okay. Indeed, the Lord will comfort Zion. He will comfort all the waste places, and her wilderness will be like Eden. So he's saying, this is how you started off.
Yeah.
But I actually, even back then, I made you from one person into a nation.
Yeah.
So if I can do that, can I also bring comfort to Zion?
Yeah.
So I think that's the encouragement. Then you go to verse 4. So it starts off, pay attention to me, O my people, and give ear to me, O my nation. So this seems like it's God talking. Okay. So I think he's saying, open your eyes, okay? For the law will go forth from me, and I will set my justice for a light to the people. My righteousness is near, my salvation is gone forth. My arms will judge the people, and the coastlands will wait for me. For my arm they will wait expectantly. I think what it's going on, it's kind of saying, oh, here's God. When it talks about his arm, it usually talks about his power. So he's saying, these guys are waiting for my arm to be brought forth to protect them.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think at this point God's encouraging him again. Okay, lift up your eyes to the sky. I'm at verse 6. Then look to the earth beneath, for the sky will vanish with smoke, the earth will wear out like a garment, and its inhabitants will die in a manner. But my salvation will be forever, my righteousness will not wane. So he's saying, okay, I'm going to bring deliverance, but I also am going to, I think when he talks about his righteousness, I think he's going to bring a remnant out. So I think that's where that idea comes from.
Yeah.
But my salvation will be forever, meaning I'm going to bring that righteousness out, even though the world is going to be punished and is going to wear out like a garment.
Yeah.
We're going to see that again in chapter 65, I believe it is. So where he says he's going to make a new heaven and a new earth, because the first one he says
It's going to get worn out.
is going to be worn out.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we've got listen to me, you who know righteousness, people in whose heart is my law. Do not fear the reproach of men, or be dismayed at their revelings. For the mouth will eat them like a garment. Or I'm sorry, the moth will eat them like a garment, and the grub will eat them like a wool. But my righteousness will be forever, my salvation to all generations. So he's really emphasizing: don't worry about the wicked.
Yeah.
They might punish you, but they're going to wear out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And then the follow-up to that both times really is salvation and righteousness last.
Yeah.
Those will last.
Yeah. And then now the next one is in verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in verse 9 you've got awake, put on the strength of O arm of the Lord. Awake as in the days of old, the generations long ago. Was it not you who cut Rahab in pieces and who pierced the dragons? So this is them talking to God, it sounds like. The you has to be God. And so they're saying, wake up like what you did in the past. Now, when it says Rahab, you cut in pieces, my guess is that's a figurative term for Egypt when he brought him out. Because look what he says, who pierced the dragon. Was it not you who dried up the sea and the waters of the great deep? So I think he's looking back at creation and calls Egypt Rahab. There's other places where in Isaiah that he calls Egypt Rahab. And so I think it's just a figurative term for her.
Yeah.
And then you could see it by what he did to the Red Sea.
Right.
So I think that's the
details,
connection.
kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you've got these little oracles starting out with the wake up, pay attention, and they're directed towards different people. First, they were directed. It seems like to the nation of Israel. Look to the rock who's from where you've been hewn. Okay, but then at verse 4, it sounds like he's talking to God. They're talking to God.
Yeah.
Wake up and show us some of those great works.
Yeah.
Okay, and then verse 9 seems to be wake up, O strong arm of the Lord. Wake up as in the days of long ago. It was you. So now it's Israel talking to God again.
Yeah.
About what he did with Rahab.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, now, here, and all this is building to verse 12. I am he who comforts you. Yet who are you that you are afraid of man who dies, and the son of man who is made like grass? That you have forgotten the Lord your maker, who stretches out the heavens and laid the foundations of the earth. Do you see what he's saying? Okay, why are you worried about human beings that can die when you should be worried about the God who made creation?
Yeah.
So that's basically him exhorting them. I am the God that, it keeps going. That you fear continually all day long because of the fury of the oppressor. He makes ready to destroy. The exile will soon be set free and will not die in the dungeon, nor will his bread be lacking. For I am the Lord your God who stirs up the sea, and the waves roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. And I have put my words in your mouth. I have covered you with the shadow of my hand to establish the heavens, to found the earth, and to say to Zion, you are my people. So here's God encouraging them that he's going to deliver them. He's going to bring them out of dungeon again. So it's that idea of exile, but this one I think is the new darkness exile.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right, we've still got some more. So right in the heart of these, it's not exactly, you don't have 3 and then 3, but you do have right in the heart him talking about here's God that's going to deliver them.
Yeah.
And then you've got rouse yourself, arise, O Jerusalem. So now he's talking to Jerusalem. For you have drunk the Lord's hand, the cup of his anger, and the chalice of reeling you have drained to the dregs. Okay, so they've gone through punishment, right? So they,
I see. Yeah.
So they've gone through this judgment by him. They're now in exile.
Yeah.
Okay, but he's now. Look what he says. There is none to guide her among all the sons she has born. There is none to take her by the hand among all the sons she's reared. So it seems like to me you don't look inside the nation to find it. Yeah. So that's that introduction. Now, when we get to it, this one's kind of a far from 52:13, where that last servant song starts. But I think it's here because as you look through the rest of it, he tells Israel to wake up. It's time to get ready, and then he's going to bring him in chapter 52:13.
Yeah.
Okay, so rouse yourself, and then in the beginning of 52, it's wake up, clothe yourself, O Zion, and then and right after he tells them to get ready and I've protected you in the past, I'm going to do it again. Verse 6 says, therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore in that day I am the one who is speaking. Here I am. How lovely on the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, who announces peace and brings good news of happiness, who announces salvation and says to Zion, your God reigns. Now, that's picking up that idea that you got earlier in chapter 40, where God's going to deliver them and God is reigning, okay? And now, listen, you watchmen, lift up your voices. Those who shout joyfully together, they will see with their own eyes when the Lord restores Zion. So now you've got several verses highlighting that God's going to deliver them. And then verse 11 says, depart, go out from here. Touch nothing unclean. Go out of the midst of her and purify yourself, you who carry the vessels of the Lord. So the departing sounds like, again, it's coming out from Babylon. And he's saying, don't touch anything unclean. So don't bring anything from Babylon with you. You're going into the promised land, and I'm going to protect you.
Yeah.
Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, and one other thing. But you will not go out in haste, nor will you go out as fugitives, for the Lord will go before you, and the God of Israel will be your rear guard. So he's going to lead them and also protect them. Yeah. Okay? Now, all of that was to lead up to the fourth servant song. So does that make sense? So he's telling Israel to wake up, get ready, you're coming out, depart out of Babylon, and get ready because I'm going to use the Messiah, again, the servant, to deliver you.
Yeah.
So now we're at the fourth servant song.
Yeah.
And this one is the most detailed of all of them. This one, once again, you're going to have people that give you all kinds of, like, is it Israel? Is it Messiah? Is it Isaiah? So you're going to, once again, have all kinds of possibilities. Seems like to me this one is hands down got to be the Messiah.
Yeah.
There is no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Well, let's see what it says. One other thing. You can divide them into 3 verses, and there's 5 sections of 3 verses.
Okay.
So once again, I think that was an intentional breaking of it. So the first one, behold, my servant will prosper. He will be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. So somehow this servant is going to be exalted.
Yeah.
Okay. Just as many were astonished at you, my people. My translation puts my people in there, and I think it's correct. Okay. So I think it's when it says at you, I think it's referring to Israel. Well, why were they amazed or startled at you or astonished at you? I think it was when they went into captivity, right? Their God abandoned them, it sounds like.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So just as many were astonished at you, so his appearance will be marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of man. So just as everybody looked at you when you were in exile and saw you were a mess, he's looking at the servant and saying, look at the servant is like that. He's a mess. He's marred more than a human being could be. That's why it says, when it says his appearance is marred more than a man and his form more than the sons of men, he's so beat up. He doesn't even look like a person, a human being. Yeah. And that's pretty good. It's not good, but if you think about what Jesus looked like when he went to the cross, it would fit really well.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first thing. Thus he will sprinkle many nations. There's our word. Okay, kings will shut their mouths on account of him. And here it's saying why. So they're not just wondering what it is, because it said, so here, he will sprinkle many nations. Kings will shut their mouths on account of him. So they're going to be stunned. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Okay. For what they had seen, what they had not seen, for what they had not been told, they will see. And what they had not heard, they will understand. So he gives you the reason why they're so surprised. And it's because he's sprinkling many nations. Yeah. And then it says, well, they were never told that. And they're seeing it, and they were never heard it, and now they hear it. Or,
now
they understand.
It.
Yeah. So he's actually saying, it seems like to me, here's the cleansing that he's coming around. He's sprinkling many nations. Well, kings are startled because they never expected this to happen because nobody told them this.
Yeah.
Okay? So once again, the sprinkle makes perfect sense. These people are looking at this king or this person who's sprinkling nations, meaning he's cleansing them, and they're stunned because they never thought it was going to happen. They didn't even know. Somebody didn't even tell them. Okay? Yeah. So that's how the first 3 verses ends. Okay, so you've got the first 3. Now let's look at the second 3, and it goes into the next chapter. That's probably about the worst. Another bad chapter division. Because why did it break it there and then go into 53? Okay, all right. Who has believed our message? Well, what message are we talking about? What he just told them about this Messiah or this servant who's going to sprinkle many nations.
Yeah.
Okay, so who believed that? All right. And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Once again, back to the strength. Yeah. For he grew up like a tender shoot, like a root out of parched ground. Let me just make sure you understand that. The parched ground is Israel, right?
Yeah.
So here's this dry shoot coming up out of that. You're going, how did that shoot come out of that dry ground, Israel? Now that's actually a beautiful picture if you think about it. Here's deliverance that God's using. And it's not using the dry ground of Israel. He's actually making it grow, even though the ground doesn't look like it should be growing anything. So I think that's a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
Okay. He has no stately form or majesty that we should look on him, or appearance that we should be attracted to him. So it's actually saying that there's nothing in himself. Yeah. He looks pretty common. He looks like a normal person.
Not some big charismatic leader or something that everyone's going to be like, this is the guy.
So he's not exactly what we expected.
Yeah.
Okay. The disciples really didn't, got stunned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He was despised and forsaken of man, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, like one from whom men hide their face. He was despised and we did not esteem him. So that's actually telling you how he was treated.
Yeah.
I've got this. He grew up like a root out of parched ground, nothing unusual about his appearance, and he's a man of sorrows. Nobody thought, and in fact, they treated him terrible.
Yeah.
Okay? So he was despised, and we did not esteem him.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's pretty good. Some people have argued that this is describing him as the new Moses. It's possible, but it's certain. I don't see much connection with how Moses is pictured here.
Yeah.
So the only reason I think that is because he brought the new Exodus. But boy, from the picture, it doesn't seem like that's the connection that's being drawn.
Yeah.
So I question that. All right. Now, the next 3. Okay, so start at verse 4. Surely our griefs he himself bore, and our sorrows he carried. Yet we esteemed him stricken, smitten of God. So he's carrying our griefs. Yeah. So there's where you're getting that substitutionary atonement.
Right.
Now, I shouldn't call him liberal, but some scholars really have a problem with this being substitution. Man, it seems like to me when he's carrying our stuff, and later on he's going to say he didn't deserve it, but we did.
Yeah.
I don't see how you can get not substitution out of this.
Right.
All right. Yet we ourselves esteemed him smitten, stricken of God, and afflicted. So we thought he was being punished for his own sins.
Right. He was carrying ours.
Yeah. But he was pierced through for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The chastisement of our well-being fell upon him, and by his scourgings we are healed. That one's... In my mind, I don't see
That's
how you...
hard to get around.
Yeah. I want to also point out one other thing, though. When it says, by his scourgings we are healed, my own mother used to think that this verse confirmed that he healed our sicknesses. so that based upon what Jesus did on the cross, he took away our sicknesses even, so that we could ask God to heal us based upon his atonement.
Interesting.
The problem I have with that, look at all those context. The context is clearly, let's look at it. He was pierced through for our transgressions. This is a spiritual thing that he was punished for.
Yeah.
He was crushed for our iniquities. Same thing.
Yeah.
The chastising of our well-being was upon him. Okay, so he was beaten for our well-being. That's still a spiritual aspect.
Yeah.
And by his scourgings, we are healed. I think it's spiritual healing, not physical healing.
Right.
If it is physical healing, do you know what that means? That means that all of us could call upon Jesus when we're sick, could call upon him and almost demand that he heal us, just like he heals us spiritually when we call on him when we ask him to forgive our sins.
Yeah.
It seems like to me that's not what the passage is saying.
Yeah.
It's all spiritual healings that he's going to do, not physical.
Yeah.
Now, that's actually really important because that means we can't go to God and demand that he heal us.
Yeah.
God is gracious, and he sometimes does, but he's not doing it because he has to.
Yeah.
Which, if it was based in the atonement, he would almost have to. And so that's why I think theologically this is really important. Yeah. We cannot base our healing, our physical healing, upon what he did on the cross.
Yeah.
We can do it out of God's graciousness. He is kind. He heals people, but he doesn't have to heal people.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually really important because I've had people that have gone to healing services and they never got healed.
Yeah.
And so they get hard-hearted almost. This guy that I knew didn't get hard-hearted, but I could see why he could.
Yeah.
But after talking with him, we made sure that he realized that it wasn't his physical healing that this passage is talking about.
Well, and we certainly wouldn't want salvation to work that way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes a prayer for healing is a no or not yet or something like that.
Yeah.
And you don't want salvation to work that way.
Exactly.
And we don't have evidence that it works that way.
No. In fact, later on, we're going to have that he calls out to everyone, that come and get this salvation. So the idea is that his heart is he wants us to have, spiritual healing. He doesn't, but he's not, even in Israel. Remember when Jesus came, he didn't heal everybody.
Yeah.
There were people that didn't get healed.
Yeah.
But I think it's confirming that that's not what it's saying.
Yeah.
So even the context is helping us.
Yeah.
All right, verse 6, all we like sheep have gone astray, each of us turned to his own way, but the Lord has caused the iniquity of us all to fall on him. I don't see how you can't get that. So it's our iniquity on him.
Yeah.
That's clearly substitution.
Yeah.
Okay? Then we're ready for our next section.
Uh-huh.
All right, verses 7 through 9. All right. He was oppressed and was afflicted. Yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to slaughter, and like a sheep that is silent before his shearers, he did not open his mouth. Let me just stop and make sure you realize that. Do you see what it's saying? It's saying he's not going to try to justify himself before mankind.
Yeah.
Remember Jesus when the high priest asked him, are you this Jesus? The only time he says, are you the Son of God? The only time he says yes, and he doesn't even really say yes. He says, one of these days you'll see me sitting at the right hand of God.
Right.
It's obvious to the high priest. Yeah. He's saying, yes, he is.
Yeah.
But when he was before Pilate and before all those that were beating him, and Pilate tries to give him away, Herod and Pilate tried to, not Herod, one of the Herods, tries to get him a way out by saying, hey, don't you know that I could send you to death? He says, well, it's not you that's doing it. It's I'm doing this for my Father.
Yeah.
So he keeps quiet because he knows he's not here to defend himself these guys are here. They're doing the job. But that's not where the real battle is happening.
Yeah.
The real battle is happening in heaven with God and Satan and God saying, here, my servant here is going to die for those people so that they don't have to.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
It is, yeah.
So here it's making sure that he didn't try to defend himself. He didn't need to. It's not down here who he's trying to defend.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Or defend himself. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. And for this generation who considered that he was cut off from the land of the living. Some people have said that the servant never really died. Mm-hmm. It seems like to me, cut off from the land of the living is pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not, they say, oh, it's like Jonah. He was at the gates of Sheol. But he was at the gates of Sheol. That means he still didn't go into it, right? This is different terminology.
Yeah.
Okay. For the transgression of my people, for whom the stroke was due. Once again, he's cut off for the transgression they were due.
Yeah.
Okay. His grave was assigned with the wicked, and yet with a rich man in his death. See, that fits Jesus once again. I'm assuming with this that because they thought he was wicked, they thought he was going to be buried in just the common place where wicked people were.
Yeah.
But in fact, he gets Joseph of Arimathea's grave,
right.
and because he had done no violence, he actually gets an honorable grave.
Yeah.
Okay. Nor was there any deceit found in his mouth. So I actually summarize verse 8 or 9 as he's not guilty. So that's why it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
All right. We got one more section.
Okay.
So here's our fifth 3 verses.
Yeah.
All right. But the Lord was pleased to crush him, putting him to grief, if he would render himself as a guilt offering. So here's the Father, the Lord, was pleased to crush him, putting him to grief, if he would offer himself as a grief offering. A grief offering a guilt offering is actually amazing. It's the exact sacrifice we need. You can go through Leviticus, the first 7 chapters go through and talk about different offerings or sacrifices, and one of them is a sacrifice called the guilt offering. It's for a person who, when they sinned, they didn't know it was a sin, but later they found out it was a sin, and so you have to offer this sacrifice for that sin.
Yeah.
See, that's exactly like us. When we were non-believers, we had no idea we were sinning against the holy God.
Right.
When we found that out, then we had to actually offer a sacrifice called a guilt offering.
Yeah.
Jesus is offering the guilt offering for us.
Yeah.
It's because once we found out we needed it, he's there to offer it.
Yeah.
Isn't that neat?
That is, yeah.
It wasn't until I found out what a guilt offering is that it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's the exact sacrifice I needed because I had no idea I was sinning before I was a believer.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so here he's going to offer that. Now, if he does, he will see his offspring and will prolong his days, and his good pleasure of the Lord will prosper in his hand. So he's going to see offspring. So it doesn't say he's going to rise from the dead necessarily, right? But if he's going to have offspring, that suggests that he's going to be alive and having offspring.
Yeah.
So it never really says that he rises from the dead.
Yeah.
But it does say that God's going to give him offspring if he's willing to die as a guilt offering for these people.
Yeah.
Okay? As a result of the anguish of his soul, he will see it and be satisfied. So God's going to, or Jesus, well, probably both. He's going to have anguish of his soul. That's clearly Jesus.
Yeah.
But he will see it and be satisfied. That's probably Jesus being satisfied in what he's doing. But I think it's also God being satisfied in the sacrifice that's being made.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
By his knowledge, the righteous one, my servant, will justify the many. Okay. Once again, by what he's doing, he's going to make many people righteous.
Yeah.
That one's once again very clear.
Yeah.
Right. As he will bear their iniquities. So substitution again.
Yeah.
Therefore, I will allot him a portion with the great. He will divide booty with the strong, and he will be poured out himself because he poured out himself to death. Once again, clearly death, not to almost die.
Yeah.
He was numbered with the transgressors, yet he himself bore the sins of many and interceded for the transgressors. What a chapter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It kind of goes, I think it's kind of neat. All these 3 sections really actually help us.
Yeah.
So first starts off that God's going to, or the servant is going to cleanse many nations, or he's going to sprinkle many nations. So the cleansing there idea. Then he grows up like a shoot out of parched ground. Everybody looks at him and can't see that he's anything special.
Yeah.
But he's a servant of God that he's gonna. So he carries our sorrows. He's gonna be pierced for our sin. We are all guilty, and he took our punishment.
Yeah.
All this substitutionary language, I think.
Yeah.
He did not fight back in the 4th one. He was killed killed for us. He was not guilty, so he was honored in his death rather than being with the guilty.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last one is he dies for a guilt offering. He offers himself as a guilt offering, and if he does, God will make him prosper, and he'll see these offspring that'll come from that.
Yeah.
It's in my mind, it's so powerful. And is this Jesus? I don't think there's anybody. It's certainly, Jewish people will try to argue that this is the nation of Israel who suffered unjustly.
Okay.
No matter, even if you took that like that, their suffering did not make us righteous.
Yeah.
So even if they did suffer unjustly, and I give you that, they were punished unjustly.
Yeah.
But their punishment did not actually do anything for us.
Yeah.
But Jesus did. The Son of God, when he died on the cross, he was doing it for us.
Yeah.
And this servant song just pictures that beautifully.
Yeah. It's a good one.
We made it through.
We did, but like that's a very there's a lot of verses in here that everyone would be familiar with.
Yes.
People who go to church twice a year
will
have heard a lot of these, you know.
Exactly.
And it is interesting. I mean, we're here kind of really at the end of Isaiah, or getting very close to the end, but there's so much is led up to this and to prep for this. And it is I think it's very convincing, you know, that we're looking at Messiah here, you know?
I think so. And up to this point, we'd been building our case.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of things are going to change now that you've got to this verse. Now he's going to offer this freely to everyone who, even in this next section that we're talking about, he's going to offer this salvation to people. Well, he couldn't have done that until the fourth servant song actually happened.
Yeah.
So it's once again, it's building it up to, and then the last 9 chapters is going to be now explaining the ramifications of what is going to happen based upon what this servant does. So we're still not done with our section, but what we did is we got up to almost like a climax that now he can actually then offer this, tell them what real repentance is, because some people in Israel aren't going to understand that.
Yeah.
So you've got a really good passage, I think, to help explain this.
Yeah. And for the next episode, we're looking at through 57. So we need to read 54, 55, 56, and 57.
Yep.
And that'll kind of close out the second section of Isaiah?
That section.
Or this section, subsection, I guess.
Subsection, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like we're going to do 49 through 57.
Yeah.
That's where our next section. And remember, the reason we're breaking it there is we had that there's no peace, says my God, for the wicked at the end of 48. We've got another one at 57, because there's a lot of debate as to where this next section divides. And you'll see, because of the context, I think my seam answer is actually going to explain why it's where it is and not where people think it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I can explain that. And it seems like to me it's real surprising that people miss that refrain at the end of chapter 57.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Well,
we've got some more good stuff to read.
Yes.
So we'll get through 54 through 57.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be a great one. But this was I don't know if it can be as good as this one.
Yeah,
this was a really good one. This is kind of almost like climax of the book, probably the whole book of Isaiah. This is an exciting one to talk about.
It was all building up to this.
Yeah.
Israel couldn't do it. And that's why I think 49 is really interesting.
Yeah.
Here, this servant that God wanted all the way through the Old Testament to be a light to the nation realizes they can't do it.
Yeah.
And so they're going to even need help. And that's why this servant comes not only to help his servant, meaning Israel, but also all the nations.
Yeah.
So that was neat.
That's very good.
Yeah, so we got
good.
some really neat servant songs in there.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get ready for next time. And I guess we'll be back next week as we continue to study Isaiah.